Do you like my mic?
That's
Maybe,
good.
Can I just...
Well done.
Yeah.
You have a background in pro audio, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's true. My first microphone was a speaker wired backwards.
Was it really?
Oh yeah, you can wire a speaker into a microphone.
Should we just avoid the whole Thai food thing together? Have you ever DJ'd in a gay nightclub?
I absolutely have.
How many times?
Every night for about every week, one night a week for about a year at the Pink Elephant in Santa Monica.
Pink Elephant in Santa Monica.
There you go.
Did you ever have a rat tail?
Yes, this is true also. Is this a roast?
I think it's going to be an intervention. We got your friends here together tonight. I mean, there's some things we want to talk to you about, Andy.
Well, let's get right to the Brazilian food then.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I guess you were just introduced, but we could talk a little bit. How familiar with you guys? No, how familiar are you guys with this guy? Pretty familiar? Medium familiar?
I need to know more.
You need to know more. I guess I need to know more. Who are you? Why are we here?
That's a damn good question.
No, I mean, I guess we can talk a little bit about why, because you are large and white and you have a Thai restaurant. So maybe you can talk a brief little bit about how that ended up happening.
Sure, yeah, that's something that comes up a lot, actually.
The largeness?
The large and white, the large whiteness, yeah. The way that Pok Pok came into being was a product of probably over 20 years of travel and probably about 13 or 14 years of kind of obsessive study of a cuisine of a particular region, a particular country, and I had gotten myself into this position where I didn't know what else to do.
You'd been a cook for a long time.
I'd been a cook for a long time, but it also, right before I opened the restaurant, I was a house painter, a painting contractor for about 8 or 9 years, and I got really sick of that. I got to the point where I'd walk into a job site, look at the wall, kind of give some instructions to my crew, and then go to the coffee shop.
And then you
or
had
the paint store.
The roast chicken that changed your life.
Yes, I mean, I had
like that. Or you had that when you were a painter.
I had that when I was a painter. I think I had started studying the food and traveling there. First trip was 1987, and the second one, which was the one that really got me, was 1992 when I kind of came across this particular dish, courtesy of some friends who lived in Chiang Mai, and that story is in the book. But essentially, it was a wild mushroom soup that I was given to taste, and that kind of set everything off. Basically, made me realize that there was a seasonal, regional cuisine in Thailand, and how would you know that from eating in Thai restaurants in America during that era?
Right, because that's like, I used to write about restaurants for the Times, and I wrote about some regional Thai restaurants, and I knew if I said Isan, it would make me sound like I knew about regional Thai cooking, even though I didn't know that much about regional Thai cooking. I don't know how much you guys feel like you know, but like when you go to a Thai restaurant, you're like, Pad See Ew, oh, that's good. I want some Pad Thai. And like, I don't know, like maybe you know to order sticky rice with it, but what's the, like, can you talk a little bit, just, I imagine everybody here probably likes Thai food, or else it's super weird that they're here. Mm-hmm. So I mean, granted, I think you probably all will end up with this book, but there's like a map in here, and where's the food, where's the Americanized Thai food from on the map?
Well, the Americanized Thai food is from here in America.
It's from here. It's not here.
But typically the food that you see most commonly on the menus here in America, until very recently, was mostly Central Thai. This heavily influenced by Chinese. Yeah.
You do more of this part, right?
Our stuff is more the pink thing up in the left-hand corner, the northern Thailand. So Thailand has 4 distinct regions. There's south, center, northeast, and north, and they're all a little bit different in there. Well, a lot different actually. They're all different ethno-linguistic kind of demographic. The terrain's different. The seasons are different. The foodstuffs are different. different. The culture is different. So, for instance, in the south of Thailand, the closer you get to Malaysia and peninsular Thailand, the more the folks down there are Malay. So the Bak Thai or Southern Thai people have their own language. They have their own cuisine. It's heavily, there's a lot of coconut milk down there because that's where the coconut palms, orchards, or not orchards, but groves, whatever you call them, are down there. And they've been cultivating that for a long time. And so that's where most of the coconut milk gets produced in Thailand. You're also on the ocean, obviously. So there's a lot of seafood. They're also known for their food being very, very hot. And their staple rice is jasmine rice. You get to the center of Thailand, that's the kind of the seat of the royal family for the last few hundred years. And it's kind of the breadbasket of the country. That's where most of the farming happens. There's a lot of rivers, center of culture, and there's tends to be the more royal Thai cuisine, the Thai food that we think of as Thai food. And the language they speak there is Thai, the central Thai language. And when you get to the northeast of Thailand, Isan, that's ethnically Lao or Khmer. And so the language spoken there is mostly Lao, some Khmer. The food tends to be kind of spicy, very, very simple because it's the terroir and the climate is dry and hot typically, and then not a whole lot of rain in the rainy season. And they irrigate fields from the river, from the Mekong River. So, and their staple is sticky rice. And then you get to the north of Thailand where it's mountainous, jungly, lots of small rivers and freshwater fish, farmed animals like pig and chicken. And the food there tends to be herbaceous, salty, sour, hot. Not a whole lot of coconut cream or milk there. As in Isan, not a whole lot of coconut cream or milk. And the food tends to be, there's a lot of preserved food that happens in the north and northeast. Like there's a lot of preserved fish, they dry meat, that kind of thing. So the language they speak there is the northern Thai language, which is entirely different. So if you're in the north of Thailand, you're a native speaker from the north of Thailand, and you go all the way down to the south part of the southern Thailand, you can't communicate. Right? It's not the same language. These days, everybody speaks Thai because that's what they teach in school. But in the old days, you wouldn't be able to speak with somebody from the far south.
And how much Thai do you speak at this point? Because I feel like when I've eaten at your restaurant and you've told me what I'm eating, you pronounce dishes in a way that I cannot then repronounce.
Right. I'm conversational in Thai. I'm not fluent, I wouldn't say. No. I can get by. But I'm, one thing I'm kind of ashamed of is I can't read Thai.
I can't read English. How did you, JJ, deal with, because I feel like he's like a tiny bit dictatorial with his Thai pronunciation. He's not happy with my version of the name of his dishes.
I practiced.
Did you?
I practiced. Well, I call him Disappointed Dad. Because he doesn't
like a Tiger Dad situation with you guys?
A little bit. He doesn't let you get away with it. So there's this word that refers to ground meat salads or minced meat salads.
I'm gonna call it larb.
Yes, that's right? That's how we say it. That's how it's transliterated as LARB on most menus. But who knew? But it's pronounced larb.
Larb.
See, okay, so whose was better? I think mine was better. But Thai is a tonal language, 5 tones, 6 tones, 5 tones. And if you're not practiced at it, it is almost impossible to reproduce.
So JJ practices a lot. He walks around the room going, lob, lob, lob. Lob.
Unfortunately, that is true.
His wife hates me.
There she is.
There she is.
You don't have to fess up to that right now. We could see why. How did you guys start working together? Because you've been going to Thailand since '86.
Correct.
And you had never been to Thailand until you guys started dating.
Exactly.
So how was it trying to catch up to him?
interesting.
Yeah. How did you do it?
I had
It was a forced march.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I had a across the country crush on Andy for a while, and I was at a wedding in Portland, Oregon, and I figured I had to meet this guy first. At first,
This is like the plot of You Got Mail, right?
at first, I was like, I think a lot of people's first reaction to Andy is you know, they hear about there's this guy cooking Thai food, and then they see that he's a white guy, and then they're like, you know, another one of these kind of dilettante. I went to Thailand once and I had a great time, so I want to open a Thai restaurant kind of guys. But I read up on him a little bit and learned there was a little more to him, that he was kind of a student of the cuisine, had spent a couple of decades learning how to cook it. So I figured I had to meet the guy. So I met the guy, and we got along all right. And
Just love at first sight.
well, we both like cats.
Really?
We both love cats.
I like cats.
Oh, I love
You guys are
cats.
both cats guys?
Yeah, Andy, throughout all the most memorable experiences in Thailand were Andy picking up stray cats and holding them up, above his head. He loves a cat. He's a gentle giant.
Before spit roasting. No. Cats seem like they would be bad eating. Can we all agree on that?
Scrawny.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that out of a pity place. I'm just saying that.
Yeah. You're obviously not a cat person.
No. Yeah, sorry.
But when we went together, one of the first things Andy did was that he kind of let me flounder a little. We stepped off the plane in Bangkok, got to a hotel, and we kind of hit the streets. And you know, I was like, oh, I have this guy. This guy's going to be telling me exactly what's what. He's going to be telling me what that is and this is. And for the first day or so, he didn't. He just kind of wanted to let me kind of experience what he did when he first got there and see how many barriers there are to the cuisine for a foreigner. You can't understand the language. You can't read the language, so you can't read the signs. You don't recognize anything that you see. A lot of the food is you know, in full view, made in full view, or in pots, and you can look inside the pot and you expect to see. I was like, oh, I'll see green curry, and I'll eat that green curry because that's what Thai food is, and I'll see papaya salad, and I'll see all these things, and nothing looked like you think it's going to, or I thought it was going to.
Or if you would have seen green curry, you would have recognized it. It's just that we were going to places where they didn't have the things that you were recognizing, and so when you saw them, there was no frame of reference. Right. So.
Right, which is crazy, because then we went to the north of Thailand, which is what you know best, the area around Chiang Mai, and ate some stuff that I don't know if I even liked, to be quite honest. That tends not to be the thing that Andy. That you take back and serve at the restaurants, but there's you know, northern Thai food is so different. It's there's a lot of bitter flavors. We ate a soup that was made with beef bile. The raw larb. The raw larb was it's raw meat. Minced pork and a dry spice mixture, or buffalo,
or fish,
or barking
or
deer.
Yeah, or deer. Yeah.
Although that gives you a parasite that we found out that might give you a parasite that makes you go deaf. So we did not eat that.
Yeah.
But you know, you're
all the other parasites. You're like, oh, that's cool. Man. Come on in.
Exactly. As long as it doesn't make me go deaf. And you're essentially eating a bitter pile of raw blood and meat with herbs,
and offal chopped into it as well, and lots
makes it more palatable.
Yeah, lots of spices.
Yeah, but it's all very. I mean, it's just fascinating to learn, as I did, how much I thought, because I went to Queens a couple of times, I knew what Thai food was, and it was interesting to learn sort of how much I don't know, how much there is to learn.
If you think about it, though, it makes sense that, like any great cuisine of the world, there's so much more to even France. I would venture to say, though it's been years since I've been to France, you may have been to 100 French restaurants here, but you're still going to walk into some roadhouse somewhere and they're going to serve you something you've never seen before, you don't know anything about, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we've been making this here for 200 years or 400 years or whatever. And Thailand's just the same. It's just that we've got such a codified menu here in America that you see the same things over and over and over again. And this is changing. It is changing these days, but you could take a menu from Mai Tai in Sunset Park and go to Mai Tai in Portland, there's 2 or 3 that you change the tone and it changes the meaning of Mai. So Mai Tai means new Thai, Mai Tai means Thai silk. So you can have one menu from one restaurant, walk into the other one and just order off of the menu, and they'll be like, okay, right? I'll have the Evil Prince, I'll have Pad Siu, I'll have Pad Ki Mao, I'll have whatever. And they'll nod their head and go, okay. And that's what we're so used to, that when you go to Thailand, that's what you're looking for. And you can find it if that's what you want. If you're in a tourist area, absolutely. It'll be in English, you can find it. Some people go to Thailand years on end, like 6, 7 times, and they end up eating the same food that they eat here. And that's because they're looking for the thing they recognize, and they're looking for the English language, and that's what the menus typically are. You really have to dig a little bit to get to the other stuff.
So what's in the libro? What's different about what you put in there? You have
Right.
a pad say.
I do, yeah. No, it's not that we don't make some of those things at the restaurant. It's just that there's other things that we also do that I think are just as accessible. You just don't see them on the menus as much. So, everybody loves Pad Siu, but you could also make gang hung lei or something like that, a Burmese pork curry. It's just as accessible, maybe even better, But it's unlikely that you're going to find it on a menu here. Or at least, your neighborhood to-go place.
And how much of the book is stuff from the Pok Pok restaurants, and how much is additional or extra to flesh out the story? Or
everything in the book we've served at Pok Pok at one time or another. It's not like all the things that are on the menu permanently are in the book, and then there's we've got a rotating cast of probably 100 different dishes that we can do at any given time, and some of those are represented too.
Was David Thompson involved in this book at all? Do you guys know who David Thompson is? But just because you're probably going to get this Pok Pok book, can you talk a little bit about David Thompson? Because I just feel like was a big influence on you.
Yeah, he was huge. So,
and he wrote that pink book.
The pink book, yeah.
Because I was going to ask how it's different from
So David Thompson is an Australian chef who's been cooking the food for 30 some odd years now, and he's now operating kind of at the top of his game. He had a restaurant in London called Nam that got a Michelin star. It was the first Thai restaurant to get a Michelin star. It's since closed down. He's opened Nam in Bangkok, and he's not going to open another one outside of Thailand because he gets everything he wants there. His Nam is now, I think it's number 32 on the San Pellegrino top 50 restaurants list. The food he's doing comes from these old death books. When people die in Thailand, often their life's work is written down by their relatives or by them and preserved, over generations. So he has these old books that are probably, between like 50 and 250 years old, with the recipes in it written in like old Thai, and he kind of deciphers them and cooks them, and the food is like astounding. It's nothing that we do. It's very, very interesting, very royal food. And we became friends through a mutual friend in Bangkok, and he wrote the foreword to the book. So if you like this book and you want an alternative, you should check out his books. Actually, he's got more than 2. Actually, he's got Thai food and Thai street food, but then he's got some ones that he did way long time ago. They're good as well.
Sorry, I'm just a big fan of that pink book. And for putting the recipes together, how hard, I don't know, does everybody just ask you how hard it is to get things, and you're like, go on the internet? I've totally done tours in every city for where you can buy Thai ingredients. But was it hard when you were testing it to get things? Is there an Amazon.com answer to?
There is kind of an Amazon.com answer, but you can get it if you live in a city. If you live in a big city, then you have access to every ingredient in the book. That's what in the beginning, I'm in the business of making like books really accessible for home cooks because I'm a really amateur home cook. So I want everything to be as easy as possible. So I brought that up to you in the beginning. I was like, okay, let's make these like nice and easy for home cooks, and you're like, nope.
There's 100, 70 easy Thai recipes for the home cook books out there.
Right.
So
he didn't want to do another one of those because his food is, and he made the argument, I think, that what he's doing is essentially working really hard to recreate dishes that exist in Thailand that he likes. And as soon as you start taking shortcuts, I think you undermine that goal of recreating something that exists somewhere else. So what we figured was instead of dumbing the recipes down, we would make them really, really, really long. And that is give people the details that they need to cook what's really an unfamiliar cuisine. I mean, I came to this not knowing how to cook Thai food, and I brought a lot of Western preconceptions to the process. So I would always ask you, when you add meat to a wok, for a curry, let's say, I would say, oh, so you want to brown it, right? Because that's what you do. That's what Western cooks do. We brown meat and then we add some liquid and we braise it, or we do something like that. There was not a lot of browning. There was a lot of you cook meat here until it's falling apart, right? So because we're like babies and we have no teeth or something. I don't know why, but in Thailand they don't do that. They leave the meat in some cases a little bit chewy because they like to gnaw on stuff because it's delicious. So there was a lot of that, a lot of misconceptions that I had in the beginning that you had to correct, like the disappointed dad.
Right. And what we wrote was essentially Pok Pok for dummies. So it's like every recipe is really, really spelled out from start to finish. The measurements are really, really exact, using weight rather than just volume. And the hope is that you can take on a recipe like larb and do it. You're just going to take you half a day, so it's going to be a Sunday thing. But during that half day, you can also bang out 2 or 3 of the other dishes to go with it. Of course. Too.
Peter, can you open to the larb page? I just want you to read I think you should read aloud in a poetic way.
Okay. Hold on, I'm game.
I don't know off the top of my head. Shoot.
105.
Yeah, it's the most complicated recipe in the book, and there's one step. That's the one. And on the bottom right.
105.
Here, flip forward. Yeah, flip forward a couple of pages into the method. And then on the bottom right, it says chop the pork, I think.
Yeah.
And the first line.
Clear your appointments for the next 45 minutes. Oh man, do I have to chop meat for 45 minutes?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Hot damn.
Oh wait, and then what do you do?
Combine the lemongrass and blood in a mixing bowl and use your hand to squeeze and squish the lemongrass stalk for about a minute. You're helping to release the essences of the lemongrass.
So you're dipping your hand in raw blood.
Which tones down the flavor of the blood and keeps the blood liquid. Leave the lemongrass in the blood for now, but avoid it when you spoon the blood out later.
And that's before chopping the pork for 45 minutes, which in the beginning I said, Andy, that's crazy. You don't need to do that. Can't we just put it in a blender? I don't know what I said, something ridiculous, meat grinder. And then you do it and you taste the two results and you get a totally different result, totally different texture.
Texture has, you could run the meat through a grinder, but then you end up with like ground beef. And this isn't ground beef. This is chopped.
And it's because it exists. This is how it's made.
Yeah.
I kept saying, why do we have to do it like that? And I think, I think very few people will cook this recipe. It's the most complicated in the book for sure. But it's on, I think one of the things you want to do is get it on paper. It's more about it being a record of this cuisine that even in Thailand is becoming harder and harder to find. So now it's on paper, whether you make it or not. Up to you.
There's a lot of books that are written in Thai that have recipes for it, but in English I haven't really seen anything with the Northern Thai larb. So I think we're running short on our time of chatting.
You guys totally have questions for this guy,
Q&A.
right? Do it.
Thanks very much. This has been a fascinating conversation. I had the pleasure of eating at Khao Soi in Portland about 5 or 6 years ago. I still remember that meal. And I love the fact that it was paired with a whiskey bar. I don't know if you are still doing that, but I thought that was a great idea. And I was just curious whether you, in your cooking, whether you are interested or care about the actual chemistry of the food that you're working with. And if you are, if that's something that occurs to you, how the chemistry of Thai food compares to other kinds of cuisines like French cuisine.
Sure.
And then also if you have a recommendation for a Thai restaurant in New York, is there? I think there's a Pok Pok too, right?
Yeah, you could. There's a Pok Pok and a whiskey soda lounge here, actually, and a Pok Pok Pad Thai. We have a small noodle shop. Yeah, chemistry, absolutely. I mean, food is chemistry, so you kind of like whether you think of it in those terms or not. You definitely. So, for instance, I'll give you a couple of examples. The one is that we found in Portland, Oregon, that the water supply there is soft water. It's not hard water. So when you soak your rice or it doesn't. What happens is the rice ends up being kind of mushy when you cook it, because this is my theory anyway, and I bounced it off of David Thompson. We were trying to figure out why our sticky rice just wasn't coming out correctly. It's like, why is this not working? I don't understand. It was coming out mushy. Didn't matter how much time we did it. It would mush out, and it sucked. So a couple things we realized. Number one, that most of the rice that makes it here from Southeast Asia, from Thailand in particular, is new crop rice, so it has a high moisture content to start with. Which makes it smell better and taste better, but it makes it much more difficult to cook. So because we had soft water there, we were like, okay, so maybe if you soaked it in hard water the way you do in Thailand, because you soak sticky rice for like 4 to 8 hours first. Perhaps that helps. So I tried using something called nambunsai, which is limestone paste, which is used in cooking to make things crispy. And I tried soaking the rice in that overnight, and it turned yellow and smelled like sulfur. It was terrible. So I called David Thompson. I was like, what do you think I should do? And he said, well, have you tried nambunsai yet? And I said, yes. He says, well, what are you doing? And I told him what I was doing. And he said, well, why don't you try just letting it soak for 15 or 20 minutes. And so we tried it, and it actually worked. The rice came out much more firm. So that's straight up, and using that same stuff, nambunsai, when you put it into a batter for, say, hoi tot, the crispy mussel crepe, it'll make it the batter, when you fry it, it comes out really, really crispy. So it's kind of molecular gastronomy, but they've been doing it for a long time. The same stuff you use to mix with betel leaf to release, and betel nut to release the chemical in it that gets you high. There's a lot of other examples of that type of thing, but yeah, we definitely think about chemistry.
Is that because you're cooking stuff here that is cooked in a certain way there, and you're trying to replicate the method?
No, I mean they don't soak their sticky rice in nambunsai.
Or just because you're a nerd.
Just because I'm a nerd, but I mean all the water in Thailand's hard water, so a lot of minerals, and so. There's other things like the temperature at which people eat food. It's typical in Thailand to make a curry and just let it sit out at room temperature when it's done cooking. It actually tastes a lot better than serving it really piping hot. Some people will cook it and then leave it overnight and then eat it the next day. Thai style. Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations as far as like Thai grocery stores or anything in Manhattan or Queens?
Sure. And actually, to answer the second part of your question, do you live in Manhattan? Try Som Tam Thai in the East Village. It's a new place on Avenue B, A. Yeah, try that. It's interesting. It's pretty much exactly what Isan food in Bangkok tastes like. Not Isan food in Isan, but Isan food in Bangkok. Places to shop. You can go to, if you've been to Ayada, the Thai restaurant in Woodside, Jackson Heights, Elmhurst, whatever. There's a small market directly across the street from there. That's good. And then you can also go at Sipapai. There's also a grocery store directly across the street from Sipapai that's good.
And I have another one.
And the Bangkok Center grocery on Moscow. And then you can go to the large Southeast or large Asian markets like Feilong in Sunset Park or New York Mart.
Right.
And you can find a lot of the stuff.
And you just did that for
you should email me.
Tasting table?
Yeah, they did that.
Can you?
I can't spell any of these things.
Yeah. I have all sorts.
But you can also look it up. I did a thing for tasting table or Serious Eats. I can't remember.
It all
for
fades
in
3 years apart.
But there's actually a shopping guide available online. It kind of shows places to go. Yeah.
So you were talking about the recipes that, when someone dies, they collect and they're hundreds of years old. Have you thought about what recipes you would like to have in your book? Not to be like dark and weird. I'm a horror writer. I can't help it. So.
I think probably the recipe for larb is the one that I would probably want this book to be known for, but I think probably what it's going to end up being is about the Vietnamese chicken wings. Yeah. Start with the rice. That's what I would say. If you guys are wondering what recipe to start with, I would start with rice. Rice is the foundation of all Southeast Asian, specifically Thai cooking, especially Thai cooking. And to be able to cook rice, it's kind of like if you're going to learn how to make sushi, you got to learn how to make the rice first, because it's, you can learn how to cut fish pretty quickly, but to make the rice, it takes a long time. And a properly cooked rice is great. It really makes the meal.
If I were going to give this book as a Christmas gift, like, what would you put with it to get somebody started down the path? Because I'm going to give this
mortar and
book as a
pestle.
Christmas. Yeah. One of those big.
I mean, there's in Thai cooking, there's basically 3 kinds of mortar and pestle, and 2 of them are kind of used for the same thing. One is a granite mortar and pestle, and you need that for pounding pastes. So every Thai kitchen has one of these things. So definitely a granite mortar and pestle. And then if you want to make like papaya salad or some of the other dishes that are called tam, then you want to use a clay or stoneware mortar with a wood pestle, or a wood mortar with a wood pestle. So I'd recommend that, and then maybe a sticky rice steamer.
Like the thing.
Yeah,
like a hat.
Exactly. Yeah, with the
It's interesting
pot-bellied.
because sticky rice is so most rice is like jasmine rice is, we call it steamed jasmine rice, but it's actually more or less boiled.
It is boiled.
It is boiled.
Yeah.
And sticky rice is actually steamed. You soak it, you set it in this basket, which you put above a kind of pot-bellied pot with a little water in it, and you get the water to a boil, and the sticky rice actually doesn't come in contact with the water. It actually steams.
My daughter wears my sticky rice basket thing like a hat all the time. More questions for these guys? Do it.
Share a little bit about your mindset or the process of opening the 2 New York establishments. Just kind of going into that.
Why did you come
It was a
here?
moment of insanity. Why did I come to New York? I like it here, and I wanted to be spending more time here, and it seemed like there was kind of a interest. I would come here and do events. I won some kind of food world award at one point that kind of caused me to come here more often to do gigs, and I started getting media type people and chef type people going, when are you coming to New York? And I started thinking, when am I coming to New York? And then, the other part of it, I think the most important part, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the most important things was, if you come to New York, you're in the center of the universe as far as food goes in America, more or less. And if you do well enough, it gives you a little bit of a platform. So I'm pretty certain that if I'd stayed just in Portland, I might not be sitting here right now talking to you about this stuff. And I'm really passionate and kind of obsessed with this food and the culture. And so doing that, coming to New York and rolling the dice and hoping to be successful would give me some sort of platform and relevance to be able to say, well, check out this other food. You don't
Chop your larb for 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So that had a lot to do with it.
The irony is he never opens restaurants in climates where you can actually grow the ingredients.
It's a nightmare. Yeah.
Somebody else said.
What's next?
What's next? I'm going on vacation. I'm tired. Yeah, I'm going to Thailand at the end of December for a couple of months. For the future, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different. For years, Pok Pok was very successful in Portland, and I never got any kind of like people knocking on my door going, hey, you want to open a restaurant in a casino? Or, hey, you want to do, like, there was nothing. Nobody saying, hey, dude, can I invest $1 million in your restaurant? Like, that happens. Literally people like open up a sexy restaurant and they get people knocking the door down to offer them money or to do something. That never happened.
Same thing in book publishing. Totally.
Book publishing too, right?
So.
Yeah.
Right, JJ?
And so now, just in the last year or two, the opportunities are starting to come, and I'm having to start to think about that. I'd be interested in bringing senyai, our noodle concept, here to New York. Salad chocolate mood concept. But opening restaurants in New York is a nightmare, pain in the ass. So I don't know. We'll see.
Questions?
Yeah, can you, anyone who wants to talk about herbs a little bit? Like what
Sure.
herbs to look for?
Okay, so you struck upon something. The first time I did an event here in New York, I figured, we'll just pick up the herbs when we get there. We're gonna make larb or something like that. And we'll just get the herbs when we show up in New York. It'll be no problem. So I bounced out like an hour before we were supposed to start cooking. Went down to Chinatown, barged into a market, thinking I'm just gonna go grab some Thai basil and some really simple shit like sawtooth, some rao ram, that kind of thing. And I walked into New York Mart or something in China, and there wasn't any at all. And I started going from shop to shop to shop to shop, and it took me like 3 or 4 shops before I actually found somebody that even had Thai basil. So that was like, I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy, because on the West Coast you can go to you can go to a regular supermarket and find that stuff. So that was a huge surprise to me. So finding herbs here, yes, you have to search, and your best bet. There's actually a guy. Go to a Vietnamese market. That's number one. There's a place on Bowery and
Near Grand, the Grand place.
I think, yeah.
Right near the subway.
Yeah.
Bowery and Grand southwest corner.
Yeah.
Right, Tan Hing or something like that.
So.
Anyway, it's a Vietnamese market. That's your best bet. Okay, for finding the herbs. You can also
They have some of the weirder ones at the place on Moscow sometimes.
yes, that was my next thing. If you're in Manhattan, you go to Bangkok Center Grocery. There's this weird dude that I know named Dala who buys herbs in Florida. Now in Florida, there are Thai farmers growing everything that you can get in Thailand almost. It's crazy, really obscure shit. And Dala actually delivers some of that stuff to Manhattan, and he delivers to Bangkok Center Grocery. So if you get there on the right day, when he's just brought it in and the Thai people haven't been there and cleaned out the case, you can actually get some kind of interesting stuff there. Same thing in the Thai markets out in Elmhurst, Woodside, Jackson Heights. Another place you can go, you have much better luck if you go to, say, Patel Brothers in Jackson Heights. Go to the Indian markets. They actually, a lot of stuff like fresh turmeric, even fresh white turmeric, you can find that there.
Well, that's the funny thing about northern Thai food, is it has this different palette of herbs that has more in common, it seems, with Vietnam and even Indian. Like, white turmeric you can get there.
Have you guys ever tried growing any of those herbs?
They all grow in semi-tropical climates, so that's why Florida, turmeric grows in Jamaica, Hawaii.
But you can't window box any of those sawtooth.
Some people try. Some people, I think, like sawtooth might work, and Thai basil certainly will. People have tried to do Baika Prao, which is hairy basil or holy basil, hot basil.
Hairy basil.
Sometimes people are able to grow that in a hothouse climate, but
I can't grow anything.
yeah. But another thing is that if you're looking for good cilantro, you can actually find it not in an Asian market. Typically, you'll find it in Hispanic market. They call it cilantro macho or...
Right, yeah, the cilantro macho or cilantro de la sierra.
De la sierra. And in Thailand, it's called the same thing, pak chi doi, which means, coriander from the mountains. And typically it's got a very feathery, almost dill-like appearance, and then typically it's also sold with the root still on, and you need the root for cooking Thai food.
And the same thing with sawtooth coriander. It's sold in like markets that have a Puerto Rican population, Puerto Rican or Dominican customer base, and in Mexican markets where it's called culantro, racao or culantro.
Right.
So you do have to do some exploring.
Yeah. And the
Or
vegetables,
Indian
most of the vegetables that you need to do this are Chinese. You can be gotten in Chinese markets. So. Any more questions?
It wasn't about the book. I'm just so fascinated with the fact that, oh my God, I just had like a senior minute. My brain went, where you from? Portland.
Portland, yeah.
I haven't been there myself, but my son's gone for work. And he says that the restaurants there are amazing. And he grew up in New York, so how does Portland...
It's the place where young people go to retire. It really is true. It is true.
No, it's because
is pretty spot on, isn't it?
Yeah, we're.
You say that? I don't know if you can say that. I can say
Portlandia is kind of spot off, but not not too far away. Not too far away. It's because we're smack dab in the middle of this amazing terroir. We have wineries. We have lots of farms around. We're close to the ocean. We've got distilleries up the yin yang. We've got breweries. We've got artisan food makers now that have come from all that. There's just like a really vibrant food culture there. There's always been the ingredients have always been there. And then, at some point, about 10 years ago, I'd say, it started kind of flicker. And about 7 or 8 years ago, when Pok Pok first opened, it really started to go. We didn't start it by any means. It was one of those, how music scenes just kind of start organically. The food scene in Portland started kind of organically. Everybody got the same idea at the same time, and those ideas were different enough that it became a pretty broad and interesting thing. So there's definitely a typical Northwest cuisine, but there's room for all kinds of stuff there. And another thing is the rents are cheap. Right? Here in Manhattan, if you want to open a 70-seat restaurant anywhere above Chinatown, you're looking at between $15,000 and $25,000 or $30,000 a month in rent, and the same space in Portland is probably $4,000 or $5,000 a month now. And 7 or 8 years ago, it might have only been $1,500 a month. So the price of entry is a lot cheaper. Also, we've got a much more lenient government there. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming. I'm a big fan. I've been to both the Portland restaurant and one in Brooklyn.
Which one's better? You don't have to answer that. I'm just joking.
And I just, when I went to the one in Brooklyn, it struck me like the design was almost very similar to the one in Portland. I was just curious, did you have a big play into that design, and is that like a Thai design of the way it looked with that kind of the outdoor seating cover?
Sure. I think that when we were looking for a space here in New York, the number one thing is that a lot of the food that we cook at Pok Pok is cooked outside on charcoal. So that kind of nixes Manhattan a little bit, and probably the more densely populated neighborhoods of Brooklyn as well. So Columbia Waterfront District, which is pretty sparsely populated, and I found this restaurant that had this big backyard, and it was like, okay, great. This mimics a little bit what we've got going on in Portland. The way the Portland thing came about was I didn't set out to make it kind of be reminiscent of Thailand, but the way that we cook is the same way that you would cook this food in Thailand, which is to say there's an outdoor kitchen where the charcoal grilling gets done, and there's an indoor kitchen where the other cooking gets done, and then maybe there's another station where you do the salads, and another spot where they make the drinks, and there's some indoor seating and outdoor seating, and that's just kind of what happened because of the way that we cook. And in the end, it's obviously, you're obviously in Portland, but the feeling, and also obviously in Brooklyn, but there's a feeling, kind of an otherly feeling when you walk in, right? Because we're not doing Italian food, so.
One more question.
I was just wondering, I wanted to ask JJ, because I have, your Mexican boy, how this is going to affect, like, your next work. Are you going to do, like, a fusion Thai, Chinese, Mexican?
I was talking with some friends about doing a Thai Jewish dinner party called Baroka Thai. But I don't know if
we
that'll
gotta end
happen.
on that note. We gotta end on that note. It's too good not to. We'll be here. We can keep talking, but that way, if you want to leave, you can leave. And it's cool.
Yeah.
On a high note, I think I'm drawn to people who are really passionate about a particular cuisine, more so than I am about people who
Make puns like that?
make
Take that to the bank.
who are sort of creative cooks, who are inventing their own you know,
Like injurito.
like
That's
the-
my
like
concept.
Andy's. He has good ideas and he has bad ideas, and this is the worst one.
I
Don't
love
introduce.
This is great.
Tell them about it then.
It's so injera. I love Ethiopian food, and injurito is my Ethiopian burrito idea. Come on, guys.
Sounds so
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever thought of, but I just hold on to it. I'm holding on to
Keep
it.
holding tight.
Start it with a truck. I don't know. I think
Yeah, injurito truck. You hand it to somebody and it just falls apart. Just like thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and
Thanks, guys.
thanks to Pete Meehan here for MCing.
And we've got copies of Pok Pok over there by the registers if you guys want to get them. And JJ and Andy will be signing afterward. Thanks for coming.
And I'll be giving
Thanks,
out
y'all.
my email
Thanks for coming.
Thai ingredients.